starting there. And I want to let's start with the Western United Football Club. What
You've
is
set me up with the first question today, Chubb. So
yeah, so we might as well go in the second one. What's what's going on with Western United? What's the latest?
well, it's another example of, we said earlier about the girls and great sports and, great athletes, but sometimes they want to pick and choose whether they're considered equals or whether they want to play the female card. It's the same with some of our executives. You've got someone like Arthur Pappas's brother, Manny Pappas, who struts around Melbourne claiming he's going to be the next chairman of the Western United Football Club based on the investment of this KAC or CAC or PAC, whatever the clowns are called. They've got 40 litigations around the world. This company that wants to buy, this organisation that wants to buy Western United Football Club has no less than 40 matters of litigation across the world. Some are quite known, like they pulled out of the purchase of KV Kortrijk, they pulled out of a couple of other purchases. You give them the benefit of the doubt, but my question to the APL is this. Why is it that the PFA had to undertake this study to work out that these guys weren't fit and proper? Point one. Secondly, why is Stephen Conroy engaging with clowns representing these clowns? And thirdly, why is it that the APL is not protecting the game and Football Australia? I'll say this: in mid-May, all licenses had to be reviewed and signed up by FA that they were financially viable. Why has it been delayed? Why are they entertaining these clowns that have no less than 40 litigations? Why are they entertaining clowns in Melbourne that depend on their partners to pay their rent as frontmen at a time where it creates uncertainty for the players? John Aloisi and Mal Piata have done an unbelievable job. These problems with the Western United have been around for a long time. And you've got good people like John Aloisi and Mal, the football director there, and Andrew Durante, that have kept that tribalism amongst players. They're late 11 days on paying yet again. There's no certainty when they're going to get paid. The APL, from my understanding, has made a decision that they're not fit. These new owners are not fit and proper. Yet no one's prepared to ring them and say, listen, clowns, go, and say to the current owner, mate, you're either going to put up your money or, this isn't looking good. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. If they drag this out any longer, there'll be litigation against Football Australia for not exercising the rights in May to make sure the licence were trading solvently. And there's going to be some significant challenges. And I just defies, there's people's lives at stake here. Not just the footballers, but the whole infrastructure of how John Aloisi and his support staff kept that team competitive is beyond my comprehension. But our game must attract imbeciles. Absolutely imbeciles. And I will say this to Stephen Conroy, who they tell me is a good man. Stephen Conroy, I'm telling you to you openly and transparently and upfront, stop engaging with clowns that purport to be chairmen that wait on their missuses to pay their rent at the end and their coffees at the end of the week. Fix the game.
All right, well, let's just quickly go to some super chat box questions to Stealth, and then we'll throw in a couple more before we let him go, or we're on the.
You didn't want to respond, Chubbo? There's nothing to respond.
Mate, I agree. There's nothing really to respond. You've wrapped it up perfectly, and like you said, it's incredible, and like you said, the job that John Aloisi done, and that is unbelievable. But mate, we've seen this before. Unfortunately, Stealth, we've seen this before in our game. It's not the first time, is it? So that's the sad thing about it.
Hey, you think we'd learn? We've got clowns
time.
running around Melbourne, around the sewers of the Yarra, talking themselves up. You've invited some of these clowns to the show, and they won't come on, will they?
No, they won't take our calls. They won't take our emails. They won't take our text messages, and
But they're going to run the game.
100%.
Clowns Incorporated, Proprietary Limited.com.
Yeah.
Tone, I wanted to ask you, what's the latest? Is there any movement on the Central Coast situation or ownership there? Or I just nothing about it.
Yeah, they're in discussions with a number of parties. I really hope that, it's a good question. And I really hope the Central Coast survive. They always seem to be in a battle to survive, and they always find a way, and I hope they do. I mean, here's the difference. Central Coast, a small community, not in a major city, has sold more, identified, developed, and sold more players than any other club in Australia. Yeah. With Adelaide sort of coming close to them. But more importantly, what I didn't realise the other day, they're only second to Melbourne Victory when it comes to finals appearances.
Yeah, that's correct.
So the smallest budget across the 20 years, identified, developed, the most players in a small community like the Central Coast, and you know, we can't afford to let clubs like that go.
No, that'd be terrible. Terrible.
Anyway, let's get to some of this chat because we always want our viewers to be part of the show. That's why we do it. So let's start.
You're going to fix that chat thing this week, aren't you?
Yeah, I can see it here from my phone, but I will fix it so you can get it better, make it a bit bigger so you can read it a lot better as well. But let's start with Michael Francis Stealth. Any news on which club Noah Boltic is going to? Also Jack Holloman and Angus Thurgate.
Angus Thurgate, let's start with the simple one. Angus Thurgate is still contracted to Western United Football Club, but he is one of 17 players that have put in a request and given notice to Western United to fix their outstanding salaries in the next 14 days. So he can only get released if that obligation is not met. Jake Holman, he's off contract. He's represented by an overseas company called Base. I think they promised him Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Manchester United, so I'm not sure what's going to happen there. And Noah Bodic's agent keeps telling the world he's got about 1,655 clubs.
Because we did do a video on him that he was about to leave and go with Segic and so on, but it's sort of like, just died down. Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
Okay, let's, for one of our New Zealand viewers here, CM says, surely Phoenix is going to sign some players in because a lot of players have left still. Are you hearing anything on Wellington Phoenix?
Well, their budget's been slashed. It's Giancarlo is looking for players. The head coach of Wellington Phoenix is trying to find to recruit specifics. They're going to go young as well. I expect a lot of the league to go. Everyone's working towards reducing their salary caps to meeting the new hard stand cap that's been introduced by the APL. So at the moment, my understanding is they're looking for a foreign 10, a foreign 9, and they're looking for a local New Zealand or Australian left back.
Excellent. All right. I'll keep going with the questions. We've got another one here from, I think it's Brown. I'll get it, but I can read what it's saying. Still, Anthony Caceres, after 6 years at Sydney FC, has moved on. Any news where he's going?
I'll tell you at the moment, Chubb, I can't tell.
Well, that's why I knew this question, but it's on the chat box, so we've got to ask you. We've got to at least. But will he be in the A-League, or can we have, or...
Wait and see.
He hasn't had enough wine. He hasn't had enough wine to give us that.
But I've only had 2 glasses, so take it easy, mate.
Okay. On the other news as well, we had that we were spot on as well. Western Wanderers announced finally just missing his name, the striker
Costa
Barbarossas was spot on. He's moved to Western Sydney Wanderers. So again, still we were right on the money again as this show. And what do you think? It's a good signing for them, despite his age.
I think he's going to do well. And the reason I think he's going to do well is because there's a World Cup at the end of the season. And the Wanderers have lost some firepower. I think they've lost about 26 or 27 goals in Nikola Milanovic, Zach Sapsford and Anderson. So, they've had to bring someone in, and I think he's an experienced guy. He's a smart guy. He can hold the ball up. He can score goals. The last 2 years, he scored 23 goals for Wellington in a team that was quite structured. I think the attacking intent of Western Sydney Wanderers will suit him tremendously. only concern I have is who they're going to put next to him.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, we've had another one now just come on. Alligator, he's also asking, is there any more signings, Stealth, for Western Sydney Wanderers that you know about?
Oh, they're definitely going to sign another striker. They have to. That's their intent. Obviously, we spoke historically about Ugarkovic signing, and he's since been announced. And I believe that Stajic will be looking for another centre back who could be Australian, and without giving too much away, could be from Newcastle.
Yeah, I've seen also that Bruno Burma was named assistant coach at Macarthur Bulls today as well, so he's moved across.
Bruno who?
Burma, is it?
Yeah, Burma. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, he's moved across now as assistant coach there at Macarthur Bulls. So how are they looking, Macarthur shaping up as well?
They're going to be okay. Callum Talbot signed there. They've got another 2 important signings that they'll announce in the next 2 weeks that I think will be key. So I think they'll be fine. I think they've got a lot of good young kids coming. Seb Krislovic is a good player. There's a couple of others that made their appearances last year. Ollie Razendov, Young Delhi. So with the players that I know they've signed, and they will announce with another 2 coming, I think they'll be competitive. I think rightly so. Sam Krislovic and Milos Stajowski will be looking at the ACL too, because although you don't make as much money in the first and second round, once if that ACL 2 is what the Mariners won 2 years ago. When the Mariners won it, the prize money was $2 million. The prize money now is $7 million. Wow. And that's the ACL 2. So it's worth making a stab at, yeah. And heaven forbid if an Australian club goes on a run in the ACL 1, it ranges from 400,000 qualification right through to 18 million in winning it. So to put that in perspective for a lot of the people listening is when Western Sydney Wanderers won it, they would have collected 18 million. There's about 6 million. There's about 6 years of losses there, isn't it? So there's some real Australian football's on a trajectory of developing players for the purpose of selling, but there's some real if you get the ACL right, there's some real benefits, financial benefits.
Stealth, I wanted to ask you something away from the A-League, because you are heading off to America, you're jetting off there, and right now there's a tournament being played there, the World Club Championship. And the reason when I bring it up to you is for 2 reasons I bring it up. A lot of people weren't keen on this tournament, but what this tournament has brought up, I think, despite if we like it or not, is that there's more than European football. We've seen now the South American teams are absolutely unknown teams are coming into the competition excellent and have brought some excellent results and, overshadowing the Premier League teams and some European giants. And I say that because when we talk about we wanted to bring in some teams maybe from Thailand to the A-League and so on, and this is what it's all about. Is that now a big achievement where this tournament got criticised? That's where you're seeing the big advantages, where now you're seeing, like, we know how good South American football is, and when we always talk about Brazil, we talk about Argentina, but obviously the club football, clubland over there is very strong as well. It's not just about European football or Asia or so on, or what we get, what the media gets soaked in. We're seeing now just the other side of how good some other teams are and what they bring to world football.
In culture, they're probably more passionate and they live football in South America more than most of Europe, if we're really honest. And it's pure. It's pure. It's not financial. It's not commercial. It's not with the razzmatazz. Look, there's a lot of uneducated perceptions and ignorant perceptions, but one of the reasons the MLS today, you need $500 million to buy a license, and you then have to have the stadium and the training facilities, is because of that South American culture. When the MLS 30 years ago was on life support, in many ways not dissimilar to us, dominated by media-saturated investments in NBL and NBA and all that, the reason the smart guys that took it over succeeded was because they started bringing Mexicans and South Americans, and obviously significant population in America. God knows between the Mexicans and Colombians and all the rest, there's probably 40, 50 million of America are South American backgrounds, and not to mention the people across the border. So all of a sudden their TV rights went through the roof. And to your point earlier, Chubb, what we've been saying for a long, long time, bring some Thai players, bring some Vietnamese players, because not only are we going to fuel it locally, domestically, but we're going to get people watching their game from overseas. But what do I know?
100%.
It's all exposure, Chubbs. We don't see the exposure here, but you talk to South American football followers that follow the leagues over there religiously. I'm talking, your Chilean league, your Uruguayan league, your Brazilian league, and like you said, your Argentinian league. But you're seeing a lot of these clubs that we're familiar with, Palmeiras, Boca Juniors, River Plate, that are in this competition. A lot of these big name clubs produce some of the best players that have ever been produced in world football. I mean, it's just that we don't have the exposure here. But mate, if we can crack that market. And the talent, and some of the talent of Australian football that has come from that background as well.
I think still should be, for me, should have a seat in the football board, because the thing that he's talked about, even with the universities over the years, I know Stealth, and he's talked about this Malaysia, Thailand, so on, bringing players or clubs, getting them in the A-League. It would be huge, and it's unfortunate that, like you said, the people here don't have the vision, or if they do have the vision, they don't really do anything about it. They say great idea, and it just sits there and nothing happens. And when the A-League is suffering as it is, if you could bring a Vietnamese club or a Thailand club and bring people, even a South American or something, I don't know, something different, could you imagine?
I looked at some stats. Last season, our average crowds were 8,400, and people may think that's poor. I think that's
pretty healthy.
That's very healthy, considering the lack of the imbeciles running the APL, the management of the APL, the lack of media presence, the sabotage that happens from mainstream media. That's an outstanding. So imagine if we look back at history, if you look at the Greek communities, the Italian communities, the Croatian communities, the various Serbian and other communities that were the foundations of our game as we know it. Imagine now, it's time now to bring the other communities that exist there, the Vietnamese, the Indian, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, our game's got challenges, but our game can be fixed. But when you've got theorists that want to talk and clap because a player or a coach has black hair and comes from this or that, or they've got no idea what they're talking about. We're Australians. We've got our own culture. We've got our own structures. We've got our own beliefs. Our migration is different to other parts of the world, and we just don't know how to embrace it.
On that note, Stealth, mate, we've kept you a bit over today, but we thank you for your efforts. It's been really entertaining getting Robbie on tonight, yourself, and updating it. I know there's a lot more questions. We could be here all night for you, but have a safe trip over to America. We'll catch up in 2 weeks, and we'll look forward to catching up with you when you get back.
Hopefully I can get Donald Trump to invest in the A-League.
Hopefully you bring some big news from over there.
Keep us posted on our chat groups, mate. Have a safe trip.
You keep me posted on the Bulldog retention and recruitment, mate. See you later.
See you, mate. Don't worry. Cheers, mate.
See you.